What if everything you've been taught about success, happiness, and self-worth was built on the wrong foundation? For years, maybe your entire life, you've been measuring yourself against other people, watching what they have, watching what they achieve, watching where they go, what they post, who they become. And somewhere in that constant watching, you lost yourself completely. You scroll through their wins and feel smaller. You compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 40. You give your energy to opinions that were never yours to carry. And the result? You are exhausted, distracted, hollow. Today, that changes. In this video, you will discover 9 Stoic principles forged by Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus that will permanently transform how you see yourself, how you spend your energy, and how you walk through this world. We're going to go deep. We're going to go to the places most people avoid, and by the time this is over, you will understand why the most powerful thing you can do in this age of noise, comparison, and distraction is to turn your gaze completely inward. Watch till the end. The principle you skip might be the one that saves you. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a man sat alone in a military tent on the banks of the Danube River. Outside, the empire was at war. Soldiers were dying. Political enemies were plotting his removal. Disease was spreading through his armies. The weight of millions of lives rested on his shoulders every single day. And yet, inside that tent, Marcus Aurelius wrote these words, not for publication, not for legacy, but for himself alone. He wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was the most powerful man on earth. He commanded armies. He governed an empire stretching from Britain to Mesopotamia. And still, his daily practice was to remind himself that true power had nothing to do with what was outside him. True power was the relentless, disciplined mastery of what was within. This is Stoicism, not the cold, emotionless philosophy popular culture has reduced it to, not the idea that you simply endure pain in silence and call it virtue. Stoicism, in its purest form, is a philosophy of radical self-ownership. It is the understanding that your attention is your most precious resource, that where you direct your focus determines the entire shape of your life. And here is why this matters now, more than it has ever mattered before. We live in an age designed to steal your focus. Every notification, every social media platform, every news cycle, every comparison, all of it engineered to pull your gaze outward, to make you obsessed with what others are doing, what others are saying, what others are achieving. And in that constant outward gaze, you become an empty vessel, reactive, resentful, weak. The Stoics saw this trap coming 2,000 years before the smartphone, before the algorithm, before the attention economy. They understood that a man who cannot control his own focus cannot control his own life. In this video, we will explore 9 Stoic principles that will teach you to focus on yourself, not out of arrogance, not out of selfishness, but out of the deepest form of self-respect and self-mastery. These principles will help you reclaim your energy, rebuild your identity, silence the noise of the external world, and forge the kind of inner strength that cannot be shaken by circumstance. This is not motivational content. This is philosophy. And philosophy, when truly lived, does not simply make you feel better. It makes you different. Principle 1. The empire within. Master your inner world before you claim the outer one. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Confine yourself to the present and elsewhere. Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." This profound truth has guided warriors, emperors, and seekers of wisdom for 20 centuries. The empire worth ruling is not found in the external world. It never was. What does it mean to master your inner world? It means understanding something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. that the chaos you see outside you is almost always a mirror of the chaos you have not yet faced inside you. The Stoics called this the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty of the mind. It is the command center of your entire existence, and most people have never once visited it. They live their whole lives in reaction, responding to the world outside them, constantly adjusted by external pressure, never once sitting still long enough to ask, who is in charge here? The problem this principle solves is the fundamental problem of modern existence. You feel scattered. You feel overwhelmed. You feel like the world is happening to you rather than being shaped by you. You give your morning to your phone. You give your afternoon to other people's problems. You give your evening to numbing the residue of a day you never truly owned. And then you wonder why you feel empty when you ignore the inner empire. The outer world colonizes you. Your thoughts become borrowed, your values become second-hand, your life becomes a performance for an audience you don't even respect. The practical application begins the moment you wake up. Before you touch your phone, before you check email, before you scroll, before you invite the world into your mind, you sit in silence for 5 minutes, not meditating necessarily, simply sitting, asking, what do I actually want today? What do I value? What kind of person am I choosing to be in the next 24 hours? Marcus Aurelius did this every single morning. He called it proseuche, self-attention, the discipline of returning to yourself before the world has a chance to tell you who to be. At work, when chaos erupts around you, practice returning to the inner empire. One breath, one question. What is within my control right now? Answer only that. Do only that. Let the rest dissolve. You are not a leaf blown by every wind. You are the one who decides which winds are worth acknowledging. Most people give their power away before breakfast. But you are beginning to understand that the greatest territory you will ever conquer is not a career, not a relationship, not a bank account. It is the 6 inches between your ears. Claim that ground. Defend it daily, and watch how everything outside of you slowly begins to realign with the order you have created within. But knowing you have an inner empire is not enough. Before you can truly rule it, you must first understand what belongs there and what never did. Let's move to Principle 2. Principle 2, the dichotomy of control. Stop fighting battles that were never yours to win. Epictetus, a man who was born a slave, who had no possessions, no political power, no physical freedom, opened his Enchiridion with perhaps the most important sentence ever written in the history of philosophy: some things are in our control, and others are not. He said it plainly, without ornament, because a man who had lost everything external had discovered the one thing that could never be taken, and that discovery made him the freest man in Rome. The dichotomy of control is not a passive philosophy. It is not a resignation to fate. It is a surgical precision applied to how you spend your energy. Epictetus taught that the things in our control are our own thoughts, our desires, our aversions, and our responses. The things outside our control are our body's condition, our reputation, our property, what others think of us, what others do to us, and the outcomes of our actions. That second list includes almost everything most people spend their entire mental and emotional lives obsessing over. Think about what this costs you. You replay an argument from 3 days ago, an argument with someone who has probably already forgotten it. You worry about what your co-worker thinks of your presentation. You lie awake rehearsing a conversation that may never happen. You torture yourself over an outcome that hasn't arrived yet and may never arrive the way you fear. Every hour you spend in that territory, the territory of what you cannot control, is an hour you have abandoned your own life. This is the bleeding wound in modern existence. The attention economy profits from your inability to distinguish what is yours to fix from what is simply yours to witness. Anxiety is largely the result of treating uncontrollable things as if they were controllable, and controllable things as if they required no effort at all. Here is the practice. When something triggers anxiety, anger, or obsession in you, stop. Ask yourself one question: is this in my control or not? If yes, act immediately, without delay. Take the specific action available to you. If no, release it, not suppress it, not pretend it doesn't exist, but consciously, deliberately, return your energy to what you can actually affect. In relationships, this means you cannot control whether someone loves you back. You can only control whether you show up as someone worthy of love. In your career, you cannot control whether you get the promotion. You can control the quality of your work, your reliability, your growth. In your health, you cannot control every outcome. You can control every input. Weak men waste their lives fighting the weather. Strong men build shelter and walk forward. You are not powerless. You are simply misdirecting your power. The dichotomy of control doesn't make you smaller, it makes you more powerful by concentrating all of your force on the battlefield where you can actually win. Now here's what most people get wrong about this principle. They think it means caring less. It doesn't. It means caring better. And that distinction, that precision, is what the next principle will forge in you. Let's move to Principle 3. Principle 3, the discipline of perception. See the world as it is, not as your fear paints it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This was not abstract philosophy for Marcus. He applied it during plagues, wars, betrayal, and personal grief. He applied it and survived what would have broken most men into fragments. Perception is not passive. Most people believe they simply see reality. They do not. They interpret reality through the lens of their accumulated fears, wounds, biases, and beliefs. And those interpretations, not the events themselves, are what generate their emotional experience. Two men can receive the same piece of criticism. One crumbles. One sharpens himself against it. The event was identical. The perception was everything. The Stoics called this fantasia, the impression that an event makes on your mind, and they taught that between every event and your response to it, there is a gap. In that gap lives your freedom. In that gap lives your entire character. The undisciplined man never notices that gap exists. He is simply dragged from impression to reaction, from trigger to explosion, like a puppet on the strings of his own unexamined mind. You know this pain intimately. Someone says one dismissive thing to you and you carry it for days. A project doesn't go as planned, and your mind immediately narrates it as proof of your inadequacy. A relationship ends and your perception tells you that you are fundamentally unlovable. These are not facts. These are stories your undisciplined perception has written without your consent. The practice of perception discipline begins with a single powerful habit, the habit of questioning your first interpretation. When something upsets you, before you react, before you speak, before you decide what the event means, pause. Ask, is my interpretation of this the only possible interpretation? Is it the most accurate one, or is it simply the most fearful one? Marcus Aurelius would often reframe events by describing them in their most basic physical terms. He would strip away the emotional narrative and look at the bare reality. A promotion denied is not a verdict on your worth. It is a business decision made by a human being with limited information. A friend's silence is not evidence of your unworthiness. It is one person in one moment dealing with their own unrelated storm. Train your perception, and you stop being the victim of your own mind. You become its author. The warrior who masters perception cannot be broken by circumstance, because he has stopped allowing circumstance to determine meaning. He determines the meaning himself, and the man who controls meaning controls everything. But there is a deeper layer to this principle that most people never reach. It connects directly to who you spend your time observing and comparing yourself to, and that is where we must go next. Let's move to Principle 4. Principle 4, the comparison trap. The moment you measure yourself against others, you lose. Seneca wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "Retire into yourself as much as possible. Associate with those who will make a better man of you." And then he issued a warning so relevant it feels like it was written for the age of social media. The crowd is the greatest enemy of virtue. Seneca understood, 2,000 years before the algorithm, that measuring yourself against the masses is the fastest path to losing yourself entirely. Here is what the comparison trap actually does to you at a neurological level. When you scroll through someone else's highlight reel, their curated victories, their filtered moments, their carefully constructed public identity, your brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone, because your subconscious is registering a threat. Not a physical threat, a status threat. Your ancient brain, built for tribal survival, interprets someone else's visible success as a signal that your position in the hierarchy is threatened. And it floods you with anxiety, with inadequacy, with the desperate urge to compete, to perform, to prove yourself. You were not built for this level of constant comparison. Nobody was. But the pain goes even deeper than neurochemistry. When you spend your energy comparing yourself to others, you abandon your own path entirely. You start chasing their goals instead of yours. You measure your progress on their timeline instead of your own. You build a life designed to impress people you wouldn't even want to trade places with. And one day, if you're lucky enough to have a moment of honest clarity, you look at everything you've built and feel nothing, because none of it was ever truly yours. The Stoic practice here is twofold. First, a daily audit. How much of your energy today was spent on your trajectory versus watching someone else's? Be ruthless about this. Every time you feel the pull of comparison, stop. Name it. Say it plainly. This is comparison. This is not mine. This is not useful. Return to your own work. Second, and this is the more advanced practice, redirect competition inward. The only worthy competitor is the version of you that existed yesterday. Are you more disciplined today than yesterday? More honest, more courageous, more present? This is the race worth running. This is the only race you were ever designed for. A lion does not compare itself to other lions. It simply becomes what it is with total commitment and moves through the world accordingly. There is a sovereignty in that, a quiet, immovable dignity that requires no external validation because it is rooted in something the crowd cannot give and cannot take. Most men spend their lives performing for an audience. You are being called to something entirely different, to live for yourself, to build for yourself, to measure yourself only against your own potential, and the moment you fully accept that call, something remarkable begins to happen. We'll explore exactly what that is in Principle 5. But before we get there, you need to understand why silence is one of the most powerful weapons you possess. Principle 5. The power of silence and solitude. In the noise, you lose yourself. In the silence, you find everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Men seek retreats for themselves, in the country, by the sea, in the hills, and you yourself are particularly prone to this yearning. But this is altogether unphilosophical when it is possible for you to retreat into yourself whenever you please." He is saying something extraordinary here. The retreat you are desperate for is not in a location. It is in a practice. It is in the daily, deliberate choice to go inward. We live in a civilization that is pathologically afraid of silence. Silence has become uncomfortable, unfamiliar, even threatening. The moment a quiet moment appears, people fill it with their phone, with noise, with distraction. Because silence forces a confrontation with yourself. And many people, if they are honest, are afraid of what they'll find there. But here is what the Stoics understood, that modern psychology has only recently confirmed through neuroscience. The brain requires periods of inactivity to perform its highest functions. During silence and solitude, your prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, judgment, and long-term planning, consolidates information, resolves conflicting impulses, and generates genuine insight. The ideas you call inspiration, they do not arrive in the noise. They arrive in the quiet, after the noise. Always. The problem is not just distraction, it is identity erosion. When you never sit alone with yourself, you slowly lose the thread of who you actually are. Your opinions become aggregated from other people's opinions. Your desires become algorithmically suggested desires. Your fears become socially transmitted fears. You become a composite stranger, made of pieces borrowed from everyone except yourself. Seneca warned in letter, "I am my own company." For him, solitude was not loneliness. It was the highest form of companionship, the companionship of your own cultivated mind. The practice is simple but demands discipline. Spend 30 minutes each day in complete silence. No music, no podcast, no phone. Just you and your thoughts. Walk without headphones. Eat one meal without a screen. Sit in your car for 5 minutes before you enter your house and ask yourself what you're actually feeling. These are not small practices. They are acts of radical self-reclamation. When you build the capacity to be comfortable alone with yourself, something powerful shifts. You stop needing constant external validation. You stop chasing stimulation to escape discomfort. You develop what the Stoics called autarkia, self-sufficiency, the inner wealth that makes you genuinely indifferent to what the crowd thinks, because you have a relationship with yourself that is deeper and more reliable than any external approval. The man who is comfortable in his own silence cannot be manipulated by noise, and in this age, that makes him nearly untouchable. If you think the power of silence is transformative, what comes next will fundamentally reshape how you understand your energy and who deserves access to it. Let's move to Principle 6. Principle 6. Guard your energy like a fortress. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Epictetus wrote in the Enchiridion, chapter 33, "Keep silence for the most part, and speak only when you must, and then briefly." And Marcus Aurelius in Meditations went further still. "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. But first, guard what you have." These men understood an ancient truth that the modern world has almost entirely forgotten. Your energy is finite, and how you allocate it determines everything. Energy is not just physical. The Stoics recognized what we now understand through the science of cognitive load and emotional bandwidth, that every interaction, every relationship, every conversation consumes a portion of your mental and emotional resources. Every person you give access to your time, your attention, your concern, and your emotional engagement is drawing from an account that has a very real limit. And most people, operating without intention, without discipline, are bankrupt before noon. Think about the people in your life right now who drain you, not because they're evil, simply because they are chaotic, emotionally dysregulated, perpetually in crisis, addicted to drama, dependent on your reaction for their emotional regulation. You know who they are. You feel it the moment their name appears on your phone, that slight but unmistakable contraction in your chest. When you give unlimited access to draining people and situations, you have nothing left for the work that matters. You have nothing left for growth, for creation, for depth. Your best energy, the focused, creative, disciplined energy that builds things, is consumed by the maintenance of relationships and engagements that were never contributing to your becoming. The Stoic practice is one of deliberate curation. This begins by recognizing that boundaries are not acts of cruelty. They are acts of self-respect and ultimately acts of integrity. Because when you show up depleted, you cannot give your best to anyone, not to the people who matter, not to your work, not to your own development. Specifically, identify the 3 greatest energy drains in your current life. Not to punish them, simply to see them clearly, Then make one small but decisive shift. Limit the access. Reduce the frequency. Create space. Replace the recovered energy with something that feeds you. Reading, creation, physical discipline, deep work. Seneca wrote in Letter I, perhaps his most famous opening, "Reclaim yourself." 2 words. The entirety of Stoic practice in 2 words. To reclaim yourself, you must first stop giving yourself away. You are not obligated to be endlessly available. You are not obligated to absorb other people's chaos. You are not a crisis management center. You are a human being with a finite life and infinite potential. And that potential requires protection. The man who guards his energy guards his future. But here's what happens when you successfully guard your energy. When you create that space, that clarity, that room to breathe, you suddenly have the capacity for something most people never achieve: consistent, disciplined action. And that is where the real transformation lives. Let's move to Principle 7. Principle 7. The forge of discipline. Comfort is the quiet enemy of the life you were built for, Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, the passage that every person who has ever hit snooze on their alarm should be forced to read. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, "I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do?" He was the emperor of Rome, and still he had to remind himself why he got up, because discipline is never automatic. It is always a choice, and that is precisely what makes it powerful. Discipline is not punishment. This is the most dangerous misconception surrounding it. Discipline is not what you do to yourself when you've failed. It is the structure you build around your values so that your values are expressed consistently, not just when you feel motivated, not just when circumstances are favorable, but every single day, regardless of how you feel. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you have decided to become. Without it, that bridge is never built, and you spend your entire life looking across the chasm at the person you could have been. Here is the battle you are losing right now, without even knowing it. Every time you choose comfort over growth, the choice is noted by your nervous system. Neurologically, every avoidance of discomfort reinforces the neural pathway that says, discomfort is a threat. Run. And over time, over years, that pathway becomes a highway. You become progressively less capable of tolerating the very challenges your growth requires. Comfort is not neutral. Comfort, chosen habitually over growth, is a slow-acting erosion of everything you could become. The Stoics called the cultivation of discomfort ascesis, deliberate practice, deliberate hardship. Epictetus deliberately trained in discomfort. Marcus Aurelius fasted, slept on hard beds, trained in extreme weather, not because they were masochists, because they understood that the man who cannot endure discomfort is owned by whoever can offer him relief. 3 specific applications in your mornings. 1. Non-negotiable. Before the world touches you, before your phone, before your email, before the demands of everyone else, one practice that belongs entirely to your growth. Exercise, reading, writing, meditation, something that says, I chose myself first today. In your work, one thing you've been avoiding because it is hard, not hard in the sense of painful, hard in the sense of chronophilia. Hard in the sense of requiring real focus, real skill, real courage. Do that thing first, before the easier tasks, before the comfortable distractions. The Stoics would recognize this immediately as the practice of eating the beast while it is still small. In your relationships and social life, regularly choose depth over ease. Conversation that challenges you over conversation that merely entertains you. Honesty over social smoothness. The hard but true thing over the comfortable but false thing. When discipline becomes your daily companion, something extraordinary happens. You stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is a feeling. It arrives uninvited and leaves without notice. Discipline is a structure. Discipline shows up at 5 in the morning whether you feel good or not. Discipline is the warrior who does not require conditions to be perfect before he advances. You were not made for comfort. You were made for something far more demanding and far more magnificent. Now, here is where we reach a turning point in this video. Because once you have the discipline, once you have the energy, once you have the perception, there is still one more internal battle most people never win: the battle against their own past. And the Stoics had something radical to say about this. Let's move to Principle 8. Principle 8, release the weight you were never meant to carry. The past is a corpse. Stop dragging it with you. Seneca wrote in his letters to Lucilius, the present moment always will have been. And omnia aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est. All things are alien to us, time alone is ours. He understood something that it takes most people half a lifetime to accept. The past is immutable. It cannot be changed. Every second you spend reliving it, mourning it, resenting it, or defending yourself within it is a second stolen from the only place where your life actually exists. Right now, in this moment, in this breath. The weight most people carry through their lives is astonishing. The failed relationship they replay like a film they're trying to rewrite. The business that collapsed and became the lens through which they see all future risk. The parent who wounded them and lives on as an invisible critic in their own internal monologue. The opportunity they didn't take, the word they shouldn't have said, the version of themselves they've decided they can never escape. This is not memory. Memory is useful. It informs judgment. It preserves learning. What most people carry is not memory. It is an active, present tense suffering about events that have already ended. It is choosing, and it is a choice, to keep living in a wound rather than living in what remains. Marcus Aurelius faced genuine catastrophe. People he loved died. Trusted advisors betrayed him. Wars consumed years of his life. A son, Commodus, who would ultimately undo much of what he built. And through all of it, his philosophy was consistent: extract the lesson, release the event, not because the events weren't painful, but because the alternative, carrying them forward, was a cost he refused to pay with his one finite life. The modern neuroscience here is striking. Rumination, the repetitive replay of past negative events, activates the same neural networks as experiencing those events in real time. When you relive the humiliation, your amygdala fires as if the humiliation is happening right now. You are not remembering. You are re-experiencing. You are choosing with your own mental energy to wound yourself again and again. The Stoic practice of releasing the past begins with a single recognition: you are not your history. You are your response to your history. The wound is real. The event occurred. The pain was valid. None of that is in question. But the question now is simpler and harder at the same time. Are you going to let what happened to you then determine what happens to you now? Practically, this means developing a habit of present moment anchoring whenever the past begins to pull. When you catch yourself replaying something that cannot be changed, bring yourself back with one deliberate act of presence. Name 5 things you can see. Take one deep, conscious breath. Ask yourself, what can I do right now that moves me forward? You are also permitted to grieve. Fully, Stoicism does not demand the performance of invulnerability. Seneca himself wrote with deep vulnerability about grief and loss. What Stoicism demands is that you do not build your identity on your wounds. You do not make the past the headquarters of your self-concept. The man who has released the past walks differently. There is a lightness to him, not naivety. He has been through real things, but he is not dragging a museum of suffering behind him. He is free, and freedom is the beginning of everything. There is one more principle left: the one that wraps everything together, the one that will fundamentally redefine what it means to focus on yourself. And this is the one I've been building towards since the very first word of this video. Stay with me. Let's move to Principle 9. Principle 9, Amor Fati. Love what is the Stoic secret that turns everything into fuel. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Confine yourself to the present," but it was in that he revealed the deepest layer of Stoic mastery. Love only what happens, what was destined for you. What could be more fitting? This principle, which Friedrich Nietzsche later named Amor Fati, or love of fate, is not resignation. It is the most advanced form of strength the human mind is capable of, and almost no one truly lives it. Let's be clear about what Amor Fati is not. It is not passivity. It is not telling yourself that everything is fine when it isn't. It is not bypassing pain or pretending that suffering has no weight. The Stoics were not naive. They were not delusional. They faced some of the darkest conditions a human being can face: slavery, exile, war, loss, illness, and they did not pretend those conditions were pleasant. What Amor Fati demands is something far more radical. It demands that you recognize every circumstance of your life, including and especially the painful ones, as raw material, not as obstacles to your becoming, as the substance of your becoming. Think about the person you most respect for their strength, their depth, their wisdom, their resilience. Now consider, did they develop those qualities in conditions of comfort and ease? Or were they forged in exactly the kind of fire you are walking through right now? Every virtue the Stoics valued, courage, endurance, wisdom, justice, requires adversity as its forge. You cannot develop courage in the absence of fear. You cannot develop endurance without something to endure. You cannot develop wisdom without the raw material of experience, including the experience of failure, loss, and pain. The setback that feels like the end of your story, it is a chapter. The relationship that collapsed and taught you the exact nature of your own wounds, it is curriculum. The failure that humiliated you in front of people you respected, it is a forge. And the version of you that emerges from it, if you apply this principle, will be unrecognizable to the version that entered. Seneca wrote in letter, "Omnia lucili iliana sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est," and then, with devastating precision, "dum defeptur vita transcurrit." While we delay, life passes by. He was pointing at the tragedy of waiting for conditions to be perfect before you begin to live, waiting for the wound to heal before you show up fully, waiting for the loss to stop hurting before you love again, waiting for certainty before you act. While you wait, life is passing. Amor Fati says, do not wait, use this. Use the resistance. Use the grief. Use the failure. Use the uncertainty. Every single piece of it is yours. It happened to you. It shaped you. It is your raw material. No one else can use it. No one else has access to it. It is yours alone. The practical application of this principle is the most demanding one in this entire video. When something painful happens, resist the urge to immediately categorize it as bad. Sit with it for a moment before you decide what it means. Ask, how might this be necessary for who I'm becoming? What might this be teaching me that I could not have learned any other way? What does this moment require of me? Not eventually, but right now. This is not positivity. Positivity is a mood. This is philosophy. It is a trained way of interpreting experience that, over time, makes you genuinely unbreakable. Not because nothing can hurt you, but because nothing can stop you. Epictetus, who was enslaved, tortured, and exiled, wrote with absolute conviction in the Enchiridion, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." He did not say, wish your circumstances were different. He said, "Align yourself with your circumstances and find your power within them. This is not defeat. This is the highest form of victory available to a human being. The victory of the inner life over every external condition. The man who has truly internalized Amor Fati cannot be destroyed, not because the world will stop throwing fire at him, but because he has learned to burn with it rather than be consumed by it. He uses every wind, every storm, every silence, every wound. He is, in the truest sense of the word, unstoppable. And that is what it means to focus on yourself, not to ignore the world, but to be so completely anchored in your own development, your own values, your own becoming, that the world becomes fuel rather than force. It pushes you forward rather than knocking you down. Let's bring it all together. 9 principles, forged by men who lived through empires and wars, through slavery and exile, through plague and betrayal, carried through 2,000 years of human history and arriving here, right now, in this moment, because they are not relics, they are not academic curiosities. They are the most practical wisdom ever produced about how a human being should live. Principle 1, the empire within. Your inner world is the only world that is truly yours to govern. Master it first, and the outer world will begin to reorganize itself around the order you've created within. Principle 2, the dichotomy of control. You are not powerless, you are simply misallocating your power. Concentrate everything on what you can actually affect and release everything else with intention. Principle 3, the discipline of perception. Between every event and your response is a gap. In that gap lives your freedom. Train your perception, and nothing outside you can define you without your consent. Principle 4, the comparison trap. The moment you measure yourself against another person's journey, you abandon your own. The only worthy competitor lives in the mirror. Principle 5, the power of silence and solitude. The world is designed to steal your identity through noise. Reclaim it through regular, deliberate silence. The retreat you need is not a location, it is a practice. Principle 6, guard your energy. Your attention and emotional bandwidths are finite. Protect them with the same ferocity you would protect your life, because they are your life. Principle 7, the forge of discipline. Comfort is not safety. Comfort, chosen habitually over growth, is the slow erosion of everything you are capable of becoming. Choose the hard thing, consistently. The discipline you build today is the freedom you live tomorrow. Principle 8, release the past. You are not your history, you are your response to your history. The wound was real, but you are not required to build your home inside it. Principle 9, Amor Fati. Love what is, not because it is always easy or painless, but because everything that has ever happened to you is your raw material, and no one else has access to it. Claim it, use it, become it. These are not just ideas, they are not inspiration to consume and forget, they are tools, forged over centuries by men who had every reason to give up and chose instead to go deeper, to go harder, to turn inward. And now they are yours. You came to this video perhaps because something is not working, because the noise has become too loud, because you've been looking outward for answers that were never there, because somewhere beneath the distraction and the comparison and the endless performance, you sense that there is a stronger version of you that has been waiting with infinite patience for you to finally arrive. That version of you does not require perfect circumstances. It does not require validation. It does not require the crowd's approval or the algorithm's permission. It requires only one thing from you, the decision. The decision to stop measuring your worth against others. To stop giving your energy to what you cannot control. To stop living inside your past. To stop performing for an audience that doesn't matter, and to start fully, completely, without hesitation, focusing on yourself, not with arrogance, not with arrogance to the world around you, but with the quiet, unshakable conviction that the most important work you will ever do in this life is the work you do within yourself. That the most important relationship you will ever cultivate is the relationship with your own mind. That the most important empire you will ever build rises not on external achievement, but on the bedrock of your own character, your own discipline, your own integrity. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations alone. No audience, no followers, no publication, just one man speaking truth to himself in the dark every single day. And those private words, written for no one, became the most enduring guide to human strength that civilization has ever produced. He didn't perform, he didn't compare, he didn't wait for conditions to be right. He simply became. That is your invitation, every single day. If this video reached something in you, if any one of these principles landed with the weight of recognition, tap the like button, not for the algorithm, but as a commitment to yourself, a signal to your own mind that this matters. Drop a comment below. Tell me which principle hit hardest for you today. Was it releasing the past? Was it the dichotomy of control? Was it Amor Fati? Let me know. Because the Stoics believe that wisdom grows in dialogue, in the friction between different minds wrestling with the same hard truths. And if you want more of this, unfiltered, unapologetic Stoic wisdom every single week, subscribe. Not because this channel needs your support, but because you need a consistent voice reminding you of what you already, somewhere deep inside, know. The world will try to pull your gaze outward, every day, through every screen, through every conversation, through comparison and noise and manufactured urgency. But you now know what the Stoics knew. The only gaze that matters is the one you turn inward. Do the work, guard the fortress, forge the discipline, release the weight, love the fire, become the master of your mind, rebuild, refocus, rise.